In a world where people dress in costume as part of walking around.
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Norm.
My voice is completely trashed from the party last night. And I knew it was, first of all, I knew it was happening at Woodstock. Because backstage gets real noisy and, you know, it's all these people I only see once a year. So Thursday night was spent kind of yelling and screaming and like, okay, I've got to hold my voice back until I sing and then I can talk.
Yeah.
And so then I sang Commander Thinks Aloud. Then we hung out some more. But last night, the club was so loud. I woke up this morning and I was like, I wonder if I can talk.
I can teach you something for once.
Yes.
My doctor, I was losing my voice a lot a few years ago because we do a lot of talking at Tested.
Right.
A couple of 2-hour podcasts a week. And next thing you know, you have no voice.
Yeah.
I asked him what I could do. And he said, even if you don't have allergy problems, take one of the, this is not medical advice, by the way. Take one of the long-term histamine blockers like Claritin or cetirizine.
Yeah.
And what it does is it removes all the postnasal drip you have, which basically hits your vocal cords, irritates them, inflames them, and it gives you like an extra 2 days at cons.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cetirizine sounds like a pill you take to get rid of laughter.
It does that. It's funny. I've noticed I've been a little deader lately.
Yeah. My jokes aren't landing.
We're
I'm
at
gonna need to take
Comic-Con.
some cetirizine.
Oh, wait, this is Comic-Con?
We're at Comic-Con.
Yes.
36th
Thank you,
week
Norm,
continues.
Yes.
for giving some actual context to this rambling.
This is our Comic-Con episode of Still Entitled. We do it
different
every
hotel.
year. And
We're in a brand new hotel.
that's right.
Every other year, I've been coming now, I don't know, for almost a decade, and I've always been staying at the Marriott Marquis at the edge of the concourse in which the con actually happens. But this year, I'm one hotel farther down at the Grand Hyatt.
Yeah.
And may I say, these accommodations are just lovely.
I like the wall art a lot better.
Well, the view is great. We've got the Midway right out the window here. The room service and food is great. The customer service, not to say that the Marriott Marquis is a bad hotel, but it's an older hotel, and they suffer from what I feel is one could describe as Comic-Con fatigue.
I think they're building a new tower.
Yes,
So I feel like
that
that's going to be, there may be a move back there if they get it done in time for next year.
I have Comic-Con fatigue.
you're on Comic-Con fatigue.
Yes.
This is like your 10th year in a row, right?
11th year.
Yeah.
Comic-Con. This is Saturday right now. Adam, of course, you do Incognito walks. We walk the floor and do interviews. Comic-Con, there's a regular schedule almost. Like you arrive and there's Woodstock. And
Yes.
for people who don't know Woodstock, it's you, Will Wheaton, and Paul and Storm do a stage show and invite friends and perform.
Well, and 3 years ago, I try and come on Wednesday nights because that's a more fun. What happens Wednesday? How do I put this? I come Wednesday night so I can enjoy all day Thursday at the con. And the great thing about Wednesday nights now is that my friend Drew Curtis from Fark.com throws a beer party on Wednesday nights where he released Woot Stout, a special Stone Brewing Company IPA, I believe, for Woodstock, in conjunction with Aisha Tyler. And I had to miss that this year because I couldn't come down till Thursday.
I drank her beer.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, the black IPA. It's delightful.
She's awesome.
The Black IPA.
What?
That's pretty good. That's
I
pretty
also drank a beer that smelled like pizza.
I don't know why
it
anyone
had
would do
oregano and basil. It tasted like beer. It smelled like pizza. It was super weird.
Really?
So because you got in on Thursday this year, you didn't get a chance to walk the floor.
No.
And we have so much stuff going on that it's tough to get a sense of maybe like even 10% of what goes on at Comic-Con. It's still going on right now as we're recording this. Have you guys read online, seen what news has come out, or what are the big things?
Affleck is directing a Batman movie, which like 10 years ago would have been the worst news ever. And now it's the only hope for the
Actually, I
franchise.
think The Town is a wonderful movie. He's a terrific director.
He's great.
J.J. Abrams took 6,500 people out of a panel and showed them a concert of Star Wars music.
The sad thing is that Kevin Smith was right after that. And there's a shot of like, looks like 50 people in the front of Hall H, and Kevin's doing his thing.
And Hall H is the biggest panel where people wait in tents overnight.
5,000 seats or something. It's
If you don't know about
1,000
Comic-Con,
seats.
but you've ever read about it, what you've read about happened in Hall H.
Yeah, so it's all the big
yeah.
presentations, all the big celebrities. Chris Hardwick moderates all the panels. And then J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, they just literally everyone stood up and were escorted by stormtroopers, of course,
Amazing.
to watch the San Diego Philharmonic play Star Wars. I don't know if it was, because John Williams was there, Harrison Ford was there, and they had fireworks.
I got the scoop. It was John Williams. John Williams wasn't there. He came in by video conference. He basically said, "Look, this is my favorite stuff that I've done for Star Wars over the years. This is my all-time faves," and rolled through it all. And it was just it's open with the Imperial March. It was it's super good.
So good.
And we were at our party during that.
So right after that happened, or at almost the same time, we had our party.
Cinephile.
Cinephile was the name of it. It was a celebration of film, our favorite films.
Now, to give some backstory, this party started 6 or 7 years ago. It started as a way for me to make sure I got to see my favorite people at Comic-Con. So Discovery was bringing us to Comic-Con back then. They would rent me a hospitality suite, and I'd have as many of my friends as the hotel would allow, usually between 40 and 70. And then that party has grown. We rented a restaurant downstairs at the hotel after a few years. And then last year, we were at a club in the Gaslight. We had about 250 people. This year was at Flux in the Gaslight. We were at capacity at 903.
Yeah. It was full all night. It's the kind of party that so here's the thing I love about the party we do. This is the second year we've done it. It's the kind of party that I can't get into normally. So like it was, you always hear about Comic-Con parties. And so I was like, oh, that's for other people. We try to premium members are all welcome. You have to RSVP, but come on in. And it's a lovely event.
Yes.
We have a good time.
And
Hold on. Yeah. I'll actually watch this one.
You know how much people loved the 5 minutes of farting around and
terror.
I love how much people loved watching that. I got so many tweets about it.
Here's my moment of horror. I had the stomach flu that night. I was like, I've got to get this done before I was on a clock. It was Mission Impossible stuff. I've got to finish this. Boom, 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 boom. Didn't watch it. Normally watch it. I was just like, straight to YouTube. Fuck it. Boom. And then the next morning I wake up, I roll over. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. And what do I see? Hey, man, you should look at the podcast. You should really look at the podcast. Hey, man, listen to the podcast.
Oh, my God. You must have.
It was not a good morning.
Oh.
It was multiple levels. But I have even more embarrassing, worse story than that from the party last night.
Go ahead.
So I decided at some point I was overstimulated to the point that I was like, I want to go outside and breathe real air and not have music for a minute. I stepped outside. I saw Mrs. Don't Try This and some former coworkers. Mm-hmm. And she said, hey, can you take me back to the party? I said, oh, yeah, absolutely, sure. I have learned years ago, earplugs are an essential at this type of event.
Right.
So when I was outside to talk, I popped the earplug out. We go back in, I jam the earplug back in, walk back, and I'm like, oh, man, something's not right. I reach in, and I had gone too far.
Oh.
What?
Yeah. So it's not a foam style earplug. It's like a hearing aid style earplug that's like, so you can talk with them in, because the foam style earplugs you can't talk in. But for like $20, you can get a pair of earplugs that you can actually hear music through and talk. Yeah. So I went into the VIP bathroom in the back of the area, and I was in there as the bouncer said, hey, man, did you take 3 dumps while you were in there?
Oh, my goodness.
And, meanwhile, I'm like through 2 or 3 different panic attacks. I'm like, man, I don't even have the needle nose pliers are up in the attic. I'm not going to be able to get them. How am I going to do this? It's just getting worse and worse and worse. So I come out and I'm like, who is going to be able to solve this problem? And it's the bouncer. The bouncer is the savior. Because those guys deal with it. They know how to deal with anything, right? Like, right. I'm like, I've got
signed to them. Like,
I was just like, hey, he's like, are you okay? You were in there for a long time. I was like, I got an earplug.
And he was probably like,
in.
oh, you put the earplug in too far? Yeah, that's problem 17.
Yeah, yeah. So he's like, one of the waitresses probably has tweezers. We'll just stay here.
They're big guys.
Relax.
Picked you up and just like popped you in the head.
So like 10 minutes later, somebody comes back with tweezers. He's like, I was like, I'll just go in the bathroom. He's like, no, you can't do that yourself.
Turn my volume down just a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
That's hilarious.
He comes in, no, you can't do this. So there's 2 350-pound men, one with a flashlight on my ear behind the DJ booth, while Deadmau5, oh, by the way,
Deadmau5 was the special guest.
Was playing.
And can I just say, finish your story.
And he's doing this incredibly delicate operation. I'm like, one false step, I lose hearing in my left ear. I'm trusting a complete random stranger to pull this thing out. So I don't have to go to the emergency room in the middle of my party. So there we go.
Those bouncers were great.
They were awesome.
Deadmau5 was epic. And so was the other DJ.
The other DJ was trying. He had a tough row.
Yes. And Yeah.
Because it's a not dancing crowd.
So
But he got him pumped. It was good.
The cadence of the party is something that was really interesting because, last year we had a party. It was called Incognito. We had your costumes on display. And we invited tested premium members and tested fans who are here because it's Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's a lot of nerds, but it's also in San Diego and people like to party in San Diego. So we planned it better this year. So we had a good hour before the general admission where fans and tested members could come and chat with you. And Adam, you met a ton of them.
Yeah, I spent about 80 minutes out front at the beginning of the party talking to premium members and people telling me about their stories about stuff that they were making, troubles they were having, getting stuff done, balancing work and life. And, I love those conversations. It's like, we talk about the stuff that we talk about and we're kind of just responding to the world and responding to our own lives. And then people come back and let you know that what you're saying is resonating with them in exactly the way that we're talking about it resonates with us too.
The reason we're talking about it is because we're sitting in the shop before a show and we're like, hey, what should we talk about today? And you're like, oh, we're good. We just talked about it. Let's go deeper on this.
Exactly. And I got tons of feedback just that the stuff that we're doing really it hits on a deep level and people really appreciate it. And
some nice gifts.
Oh my gosh. So this kid came up to me last night. What's his name?
Jonathan Haber.
Jonathan Haber. He comes up and he's patiently waits for about half an hour. I'm talking and taking pictures with many other people. And finally it's his turn. And he says, I'm a big fan. You've meant a lot to me. You've given me a lot of inspiration. And I have a gift for you. And it's this little box. And he hands it to me. And it's heavy. And he says, I'm going to be interested in seeing how quickly you can. And as he says that, I am cracking the top of this cardboard box, and there's some cardboard, hay in there.
Yeah.
And I part it, and I see a little bit of steel, and I say, he's like, I'm interested to see how fast you can get. And I say, it's a Rocketeer buckle. And here's the thing. In the Rocketeer's central chest buckle for his harness, for his jetpack, is an unfindable prop. Like, there were a few for the production. And as far as I can tell, no one's ever been able to find the original manufacturer. It is the rarest bloody buckle in the world.
So it was found by the production team, but it's something that's hyper rare.
It's like some German quick release parachute harness buckle. It's a far out kind of it's the most esoteric prop piece. And when you can find them on eBay, they're about $800 a piece.
Wow.
Now, years ago, yes, here you go. Thank you. This is said buckle.
Wow.
Now, several years ago, somebody made some replicas in steel. I believe this to be one of those replicas.
Wow.
But it functions identically to the real one. If only we had someone here who knew parachute harnesses really well.
If only. If only.
We could get them. I think this is a replica. It has this little Christmas tree on it, and it has been identified as a German company. Chris, you want to take a look at that and tell me what you think? I figure with all the aircraft you have flown over the years, you might have encountered one of these.
Interesting. So this is designed to be used one-handed, spring-loaded. So yeah, it's on some sort of safety release mechanism like a lot of parachute gear that I've used. And fairly clear imagery on it. I doubt it's a one-off. That looks like a manufactured item.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it probably is. And you looked up the acronym on the back?
So I haven't gone back into my research on this recently because I just got this last night. But back when I did, I spent a couple of weeks trying to do internet research to find this company. I found the company, but not any catalog, not any old buckles, and hundreds of members of the RPF have spent time doing this. And like I said, I believe this is one of the replicas from a few years ago. Even still, the replicas are rare as hen's teeth and almost never show up. So for him to hand this over to me, I'm going to pull my Rocketeer off the rafters and start working on it.
Adam, you slow played something kind of important here.
Chris Hadfield.
Gentlemen,
Hi,
happy to be joining you. Good
Thank
to
you
see
for
you.
joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks.
So by the time this podcast airs,
Yeah.
this will have already happened. But Chris is here in my hotel suite
Next to the nice art.
next to the nice art to get ready to enjoy his first Comic-Con in costume.
That's right.
It's both your. Is it your first Comic-Con and your first Comic-Con in costume? Oh, I got the. You got the cracking
In
voice
fact, it's
there.
the other order. That's
Okay.
right. Yeah, it is.
Also, here's my question, because I've worn many, but have you ever worn a fake spacesuit before?
No.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, no, I did when I was 6 years old. It was a cardboard box, spray painted silver, and that my mom made for me. We walked around on the last day of October and gathered candy with my very first spacesuit. I don't know what it was modeled after. One of the earliest science fiction shows, I think.
Did you ever have Did you have Baskin Robbins up in Canada?
We do now, but we didn't then.
So back when I was a kid, Baskin Robbins was where we went to get ice cream in town, and they had the ice cream that they had out the counter was in these giant cardboard tubs.
Right, tub,
And
circular.
you could go to them and ask them for old tubs, and they would, as soon as they were empty of ice cream, they would wash them out and keep them in back. And at least 3 years in a row, between like the ages of 6 and 8, I would get the tub and I'd cut out a shield and use my dad's animation acetate and make myself a space helmet.
I'm completely unsurprised. You turned a closet into a spaceship.
I did actually. My parents' bedroom closet was about 5 feet wide by about 12 feet long, and I took some cardboard and built a spaceship cockpit. But I did it dropped away from the back wall, which I painted black with a star field and a fluorescent light,
Nice.
so I could sit in my cockpit and look at space.
My brother and I had adjoining beds in a shared bedroom, but at night, when lights go out, we would both, in each of our beds, pull our knees up, which became the instrument panel in front of us.
Yes!
And we flew the most complex space missions ever, but entirely imaginary in the dark. But you needed an instrument panel in front of you in order to give a feeling of reality to
So
it.
in the cramped space of any vehicle, space vehicle, or any vehicle you've flown through the air or in space, have you ever had a sense memory that took you back to the blankets?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know what triggered. I think it might have been the Soyuz, because I hadn't thought about that in years and years. And then when I was training a few years ago to fly the Russian spaceship, it is so cramped inside.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 3 people, knees pulled up to their chest, where the entire side of your body is touching the person next to you. It's just big enough for 3 people. So maybe that was a sense memory. I don't know. It's a spaceship that is just big enough for 3 people and no bigger.
I keep meaning to ask you if you remember somebody from the shuttle years ago called Car Talk. Mm-hmm. Do you remember this?
John Grunsfeld.
Yes.
Yeah,
He
John
said, "I've got
Grunsfeld.
this vehicle. It runs really rough for the first 25 minutes, and then it doesn't make any sound at all."
That's right. Yeah, it's got a heck of a set of brakes on it, for sure. Yeah.
So your first Comic-Con, what are your anticipations for the floor? What is it? How has Adam prepped you?
I was thinking about it, and I was originally inspired to become an astronaut by the fantasy of science fiction, my own imagination, the stuff I read, and then Star Trek, and then 2001: A Space Odyssey. All those things ganged up on me to kind of open my mind wide enough to then blend that with the reality of actual spaceflight to make me want to turn myself into an astronaut. So for me, this is sort of now coming back at it. This is the fantasy made real. This is all of those images that help people imagine things that otherwise don't exist, that then push the reality. To me, this is a chance to see all that process. So I'm really delighted on that side. And the other is to see what Adam has come up with to mimic some of the reality that I've experienced as well.
Well, so yeah, the costume that we've got is the Clavius-based silver spacesuits from 2001. And apropos of my spacesuit walk last year, which was in the alien spacesuit where I almost got heat stroke, these costumes have a fully integrated recirculating cooling system of a shirt. What do you call that shirt?
LCVG, liquid cooling ventilation garment.
It's the mesh shirt with the tubes running through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wear them when we're training underwater, but those ones, they're connected to an umbilical. So there's a big chiller outside that's pumping the cold water around your body the whole time you're in there. And it's weird, if you get a little hot, you say, "Could you turn down my suit?" You just announce it to the world. "Could someone please turn my temperature down?" And you get a little cooler. It's kind of weird. But then on the space walking suit outside the space shuttle or the space station, there's a dial on your chest. The printing on it is backwards because you have to be able to read it in the mirror on your wrist. And it just chooses how much of that cooling water is going to go through the flash evaporator and how much is just going to keep recirculating around your bodies. It works pretty well.
I did a test in my house a couple of weeks ago.
Your
I
house
filled-
is different than my house.
Well, I put on the cooling garment and then I put on the spacesuit and I kind of got hot and walked around the house and I found that there's diminishing returns. Like there's only so much cooler you can get at a certain point. So when the first time I tested it, I just turned it on full and left it on, and the ice water was warm within 30 minutes.
Wow.
Like
Oh, wow.
it was moving that amount of heat. But then once I put fans in the helmet, which is really the thing I was trying to use the cooling to do, I was able to keep the visor clear, and I only had to turn on the garment about 2 out of every 5 minutes. And I've got switches that are easily accessible in the backpacks that we can use to turn on both our blowers and our cooling unit.
When you come out of the pool training for a spacewalk, it's weird. You're working hard, so you have the thing turned up, keep you really cool. And then for like the last 10 minutes, there's a quiet period. They're extricating you out of your suit. And almost everybody comes out of the suit hypothermic because they forget to turn the temperature back up. And so for the last 10 minutes, right against your whole skin, you have ice cold water flowing for a while. So after a while, you learn that it's a really effective way to chill your body down, especially on the exposed vessels by the skin.
And I'd heard this from the Henson people. They've built cooling suits for like Bear in the Big Blue House. That costume has a cooling system built into it. And when Henson was first experimenting with it, they had trouble with their puppeteers getting hypothermic. And it gets so warm in those costumes. I mean, when the guy who played Godzilla was in the Godzilla suit, they'd pour out a teacup of sweat every 5 minutes he was in the suit.
Oh.
So you don't even think hypothermia would remotely be possible.
If we do form a band, it would be good to be the hypothermic puppeteers.
I think that's exactly what we should do. I love that idea.
So, okay, so they know the suit. They know the suit by now. So let's talk about it a little bit, because this is the Clavius suit from 2001.
Yes.
This is, I think, probably I think it's visually more interesting. It's the same suit, different paint scheme, different color scheme, more or less.
When people see 2001 spacesuits, they think of the red one or the yellow one, the Frank Poole or the David Bowman, or David Bowman's suit that he disables Hallen, which is both orange and green because it's from pieces from the bay. But the one that no one's ever replicated is the Clavius suit. It's what Heywood Floyd rides to Tycho crater in when he's on his way to investigate the magnetic anomaly.
And you've been working on this for what, 2, 3, 5 years at this point?
4 or 5 years. Yeah, assembling the parts. I commissioned the soft parts, and the front pack was made by a friend of mine, and then the backpack was first sculpted by my friend John Goodson, as a model maker at ILM. I did all the machining of all the parts and the dials. The cooling units come. Basically, the cool shirts are from a company called Cool Shirt. They make cooling systems for race car drivers.
Oh.
And the submersible pumps are a standard cooling system submersible pump for getting people back from being having heat stroke. Like ambulance drivers would have this system in their trucks. What else? And the boots of the Clavius suit are, in fact, the original boots are Tebbit and Hall firemen's boots, which is a British company from the 50s and 60s. You can't find them. They're actually suede on the outside, but there is a boot that looks almost precisely like it, and unfortunately,
don't say UGG.
It's Uggs.
Oh, yeah.
You've just announced
That's
that,
the
though, so
secret.
that at next year's Comic-Con, someone's going to hand you one of those British fireman's
Yeah.
boots.
It could be. It
could
could
be.
be. Yeah,
He just wanted to get you a pair of Uggs, Commander.
they're very comfy for wearing around the house.
I love mine for around
They're
the
the
house.
sweat pant of shoes.
Yes, yes. I think that's as good a place as any to
think
call it
so.
a day. We're gonna go do the walk now. We haven't done it for us. This is all you're living way in our future. That's
Yes.
just wrapping around in interesting ways. Thank you so much for.
I will also point out that I replicated the lunchbox that Floyd and his team have lunch with in the rocket bus on the way to Tycho. And Chris and I are going to be walking around with these lunchboxes with actual sandwiches in them. At a certain point, I think we may sit down and have some lunch.
and because the last time we saw you, Adam taunted you with a pickle when you were on orbit and just wanted something crunchy, as I recall.
Yes.
I think we even have pickles.
I think we have pickles.
So-
That's good. The beauty of being back on Earth.
There you go. So that'll do it for us this week. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for coming by, Commander Hadfield.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for
We'll
the
be back next
invitation.
week with another episode of Still Untitled. Bye.
Bye.
In a world.
In a world.
In a world.
In a world.
Have you seen that movie? Lake Bell.
Written and directed. It's fantastic.